New at 6, the impact a federal lawsuit could have on the 2020 election for the next Hamilton County Sheriff.
Former county jail commander Charmaine McGuffey is running against her former boss, Sheriff Jim Neal. But she's also suing him for firing her, and that's just the beginning of this investigation.
In a story you'll see only on 9 on Your Side, Chief Investigative Reporter Craig Cheatham explains why this lawsuit is so important for the candidates and voters.
Jim Neal for sheriff.
Election night, November 2012. Jim Neal is elected Hamilton County Sheriff. Neal's handpicked commanders included Major Charmaine McGuffey, chosen by Neal to run the county jail and court services, the highest-ranking woman ever in the sheriff's office. Fast forward, 2 years ago, Neal fired McGuffey, a friend and co-worker, for more than 3 decades. McGuffey is now suing Neal for illegally terminating her. She's also running against him in the race for Hamilton County Sheriff.
I'd say it's wildly unusual to have this kind of relationship.
Ryan Salzman, an associate professor in NKU's Political Science and Criminal Justice Department, told the 9 on Your Side I-Team McGuffey's lawsuit against Sheriff Neal may have a chilling effect on the election.
The voters in Hamilton County are actually probably going to end up on the short end of the stick because at every turn, either of them in an uncomfortable position is going to be able to claim that they can't comment for legal reasons.
In her lawsuit, McGuffey claims the sheriff's office discriminated against her because she's a woman, a lesbian, and she complained too much about how officers used force on inmates.
I just simply asked questions. Can we do better? Can we do more? And I believe that that did not sit well with certain people.
But Sheriff Neal says it was much more than that. In January 2017, following a complaint from McGuffey's former assistant, an internal affairs investigation determined that McGuffey created a hostile work environment and used words like worst, incompetent, and horrible to describe employees when she yelled at them. The investigation also found McGuffey was dishonest with internal affairs.
It's a lot of baggage, and the campaign is only going to exacerbate that.
Sheriff Neal offered McGuffey a civilian job with a pay cut, but he says when she didn't accept it, he fired her. McGuffey's attorney questioned Sheriff Neal under oath during a deposition on April 11th. The I-Team compared the sheriff's sworn testimony to the public record before he testified. Sheriff Neal testified about former corrections officer Jason Mize. A sheriff's office internal affairs investigation determined Mize used excessive force in August 2016 when he shoved a frail 61-year-old inmate headfirst into a concrete half wall. That inmate, Mark Myers, suffered head injuries and a broken hip. The I-Team asked the sheriff about that incident in 2017. In the last case involving Mize, is it fair to say that the sheriff's office had determined that a crime had occurred?
We felt it had.
We believed that it had occurred, and that's why it was referred to the prosecutor's office.
Right.
Mize wasn't charged locally, but now he's facing a federal charge. In April, Neal initially testified under deposition for McGuffey's lawsuit that he couldn't remember the incident, but he did recall that inmate Myers came in with a pre-existing injury, and this matter aggravated it.
That's a notable detail to be able to remember when you can't remember something else. That is very notable, and again calls into question the overall quality of his responses, which feeds into a larger question about integrity, and what are your attempts here.
Neal also testified he wasn't sure if Mize had used force on other inmates, even though sheriff's office records show Mize was disciplined 3 previous times for using too much force, including a suspension by Sheriff Neal himself.
Either the information is not making its way to the sheriff, or there's a purposeful effort here to mislead.
Alex Triantafilou is the chair of the Hamilton County Republican Party. McGuffey and Neal are both Democrats. Gwen McFarland, the chair of the Hamilton County Democratic Party, declined to comment.
That kind of chaos should leave voters and citizens of Hamilton County concerned.
Sheriff Neal also declined WCPO's request to discuss his testimony. Last week, Charmaine McGuffey's attorney said that McGuffey would not give us an interview, but apparently McGuffey has changed her mind. We're scheduled to interview her now tomorrow. The lawsuit isn't scheduled for trial until after the 2020 Ohio primary election in March. Despite all of this, Sheriff Neal testified that he loves Charmaine McGuffey. More on that part of the story on WCPO.com. Craig Cheatham, 9 on your side.